Hey y'all, this is Elle Thick Madame again. So I am behind. I don't even know how I got behind on this because I saw it when it came out and it actually was released early. And I saw it and I actually could have been, from what I've seen, the first person to put it out as a review. But I digress. It is what it is. So I am doing the review on Love and Marriage Huntsville. And as y'all know, I'm from Alabama. I actually have been to Huntsville a handful of times in my life. I went as a child to the little space center. I love science. Like, people don't understand, I love science. So I was excited. That trip was just long. You know, when you're a child, you're like, when we gonna get there? Are we there yet? All that good stuff. But I enjoyed myself. I remember that like it was yesterday, even though I was like for real a child in elementary school. But I saw that. I went there. And as I mentioned to y'all before, I have an ex that's from Huntsville. So I visited his relatives years upon years, over 10 years ago. So that was the last time I went, was when I went with him and all that good stuff. So I am kind of familiar with Huntsville. I visited, what is it? What is the A&M? I went to that campus before. It was interesting since I am a graduate of Alabama State University, but I went and myself and my ex walked that area where the band is and all that stuff. But yeah, what is it, Alabama A&M or something like that? Whatever it is. Whatever is in Huntsville, whatever that school is. But yeah, I have, slight ties to Huntsville. I've been there, I've seen the sights. And, some of the areas weren't that glamorous, but, it is a nice booming area. It is exciting when you first come in and you pass by the Redstone Arsenal and you see the little rocket and all that stuff. So NASA is very, very interesting. I know it makes me excited. Whenever I used to pass through there, it would make me excited. So anyway, y'all, finally getting around to do this review. So this one is Rocket City Revival, y'all. So we start off with Marital and Melody. They are college sweethearts, and apparently he asked her to marry him the day she graduated. That's pretty cool. I like little videos and stuff that show people doing that. That's pretty cool to me. I like that. But he proposed to her on her graduation day. They have 3 kids, 6 years old, 5 years old, and 2 years old. Their kids are cute. So they have a business together. They are entrepreneurs, and it's called Holt Custom Homes. They always say Holt and Holt, but I think the business is actually called Holt, Holt, Custom Homes. So yeah. But they build homes for people. They acquire land, and they actually were in a group that involved other people, other married people, or people who are about to be married, who we will see throughout this actual show. But it was a group that was formed in order to build homes that helps the community to help themselves, and kind of like revamping Huntsville, because like I said, there are some areas that are, like, oh, okay, but that's anywhere. But I'm just saying, trying to help the community to better themselves. And, it is a booming type of area, so it's nice if you can have the nicer communities to be out there for the people in our communities to be able to live in and be proud to live in those areas. So that's what they were doing. That was their initiative with this particular group, and it's called the Comeback Group. Now, this particular group disbanded after what has been said as one of the reasons as to why it was over is because this other person, I haven't even talked about him yet, but apparently he found the land, and it was 47 acres of land, and it was adjacent to a community, and they wanted to incorporate all of that and build homes on it all together as a group. Everybody has their own businesses and they all intertwine. So it would make sense. And then it's just amazing anyway, because these are Black owned businesses coming together to do something amazing for the community, right? But apparently he found this land and they kept meeting up and nothing got resolved on whether they were going to purchase the land and start doing, start actually building on the land and do all the other stuff they were going to do to the land. And so some of the people are saying that they, walked away from the situation. Others are saying that it was tabled and no one ever came to a solution. So everybody was supposed to walk away and that was going to be it. Well, Marital, the man who I'm talking about right now, of Mr. Hope, he said what happened was they left the opportunity on the table. They couldn't just leave it there like that. So they picked it up, bought it. And apparently they've made millions off of this because 47, acres is quite a bit. It's a lot, whether people want to accept that or not. So he did a lot. They showed like a little surveying, like plane that showed what the land looked like. It's a lot. It was a whole lot of land. It was like, I think next to water too. Like it was good. It was a nice area. So they ended up, him and his wife ended up closing on that, bought the land and did what they were going to do. And everybody else found out about it after the fact. And so everybody felt slighted and they were just like, yeah, we done. Couldn't tie with y'all, whatever. But everybody still somehow are still friends. So anyway, when he actually brought an idea to his wife before I don't even know why I said that first. So before the comeback group was even brought up in conversation, Marital came to his wife, whose name is Melody, and told her about a lot that he found. It was like 2 lots that were like right next to each other that he was thinking of building 2 homes on. And so she was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Showed her the pictures of it and all that stuff. And so that's when she brought up the comeback group. So I already said all that. Okay, so we go to the next couple. Maurice Scott, who is someone who does credit repair. And his wife-to-be, her name is Kimberly Grant. And she does real estate. So Maurice, he's also in school and they're planning their wedding. So a lot is going on. I know he has to be overwhelmed, even though she's doing a whole lot of the wedding planning. He likes to be involved as well. So yeah, a lot is going on. So they were in the middle of talking about her decision to fire the florist when the phone call comes in, and the phone call is from Melody. That's Marital's wife, the woman who we were just talking about, who got married to him when she got, who got engaged to her now husband when she was graduating college. So she's on the phone with him and he put her on speakerphone. And so she tries to make, small talk to lead into the real conversation as to why she called. So she was like, how's wedding planning going? And he's trying to make it seem like it's easy when actually it's like they were in the middle of halfway arguing. And so then she starts to say, I was talking to my husband and I was talking about bringing the comeback group back. And so the woman was looking like it was crazy. But, she was like, well, I just want to know what you thought about that. I want us to try to have a meeting and all this other stuff. And so, he basically was like, yeah, I think that Kimberly would be on board with it and I'm on board with it. So just let me know when we go set up this meeting. So he get off the phone with her and she looking like, what is going on here? You can't speak for me, trying to play, be silly and somebody, you can't speak for me. He was like, I speak for the both of us. But yeah, they was doing the most. So then the next couple, okay, I should have poured me a little wine for this. Y'all, I can't with this dude already. I already knew. I knew it was coming. I don't know what it was, but I knew. Y'all, so anyway, the next couple. I'm trying to say his name right because it sounds like people are saying Marcel, but it's Marceau, I guess. Marsau, Scott. And he is the brother to Maurice Scott. And even though Marceau looks older, he's the younger brother to him. But anyway, he is the president of a general contracting company. And his wife's name is Letitia Scott. And she's a stay-at-home mother who acquired a realtor's license and has not been using it. Now, so they're in the middle of talking, and she tries to bring up conversation about getting into using her realtor's license and, figuring out what they're going to do with the kids, because they have 3 kids, if I'm not mistaken. And he off rip was like, yeah, remember we had an agreement. And so she was like, yeah, I get that. But, I could do other things besides just being in the house with the kids. And so he was like, yeah, but, it's been decided. It's just, this is what it's going to be. You're going to be here with the kids. I work, the end. And he's one of those people who is beyond old fashioned. He thinks women are just here to make sandwiches and be barefoot and pregnant and do everything, and he just works and has sex and creates kids, and that's all he does, and expects his meals to be ready and hot. And I don't know, he's actually a male chauvinist, and I wish I could slap him. I just can't do it. I don't care if he kin to y'all, I'm sorry, he trifling. He's a male chauvinistic pig. I ain't got time. So anyway, they're in the middle of talking, and like she was saying, Letitia was saying that, I have my license. What was the point of me going through the process to get this license? All this money was spent on it for me not to use it. And so he was like, oh, I thought it was, he basically was saying he thought it was, just a joke. Really? It's like, what you mean? Who goes through the process to get a license? Who goes to school and who does all of this stuff in order to obtain a license just for it to be a joke? I know I wouldn't. I don't have time for that. And so it gets to the point where he was like, it just is what it is. You're supposed to be here doing this, taking care of the kids, and that's all. And so she was like, I'm done with this conversation. So, before she was really, really done with the conversation, she was like, I'm just going to have to show you better than I could tell you. So then, he still was on his little rant of, what you're going to do is take care of these kids, and that's all. And so she got mad and was like, yeah, I'm really done. And she called the kids down to come eat breakfast. They either have 2 or 3 kids. I'm 5. So they came downstairs, and they were talking about what happened in the past with him finding the 47 acres of land, and that I think Melody, or it might have been Marital who called. But anyway, someone called him and was talking about bringing the combat group back, and she was even looking like, what? Why? And, brought up what happened in the past. And she made it seem like, Marital swooped in and just took the land from under everybody's noses, and that was the end of it. And then the business relationships, as far as that group is concerned, was severed, and they just never looked back. So, just like, no, I'm tired. And before the scene ended, he said something about the man being the head of the household or something like that. And the little girl, she's like really small. She was just like, no, everybody's equal. And I was like, Lord, even the child and got tired of you, sir. But anyway, so at this point, everyone has been invited to the meeting, and they're going to meet up. Everybody who was already originally a part of the combat group when it first was conceptualized. So that being said, everybody was meeting at the lot that Marital found. So people got there late or whatever. They just kept showing up, but one by one. So anyway, Marital was showing everybody the land and telling them what his vision was. And then his wife, Melody, started explaining to everyone in front of one another, at one time, what the situation was, which was, hey, y'all, my husband came to me the other day with an idea to buy this lot or these lots and build 2 homes on it and, go from there. And I mentioned to him, what about the comeback group? So that's why we're all here. I feel like we can do more together than separate. I don't understand the problem. So that's when people brought up what happened in the past with the comeback group. And basically everybody was trying to make it seem like, we all can work together. That's the whole purpose of the comeback group is, for us to come together and the community to be able to do the things that they should be able to do on their own. And this would just make it easier for them to do so. And it'll be nice. So they're kind of trying to make it seem like bygones are bygones. We're going to try it one more time, but nobody really trusts one another, y'all. So anyway, the next scene is Melody at work. Melody is at work and, doing her little thing at work. So then she goes to call her husband, Martel. So she calls him. She gets sent to voicemail. So she was like, no, I got time for this. So she called him a couple of more times. So then 20 minutes after she had tried to call him, he pulled up at the office. And so he was like, hey, baby, how you doing? Or whatever, greeting her. And she looking at him all salty like, yeah, so I've been trying to call you. And so he was like, well, I've been on the phone with contractors all day. And so she was like, I'm your wife. When I call, you answer the phone. I called you like 3 times. Why haven't you answered your phone? And he was like, like I said, I was on the phone with contractors all day. And so he went into specifics about what he was talking about, who he was talking to, and all this other stuff. And so she was like, well, that just sounds like a 1-hour conversation. I mean, I don't understand. You could have answered your phone. And, she kept making a big deal about him being on the phone. And he was just like, no matter what he said, he couldn't win for nothing. And I was just like, Lord, this is too much. So after all was said and done, she was just trying to make it seem like, this don't make no sense. I remember how it was when they basically had grassroots type of work ethic when they first got together and they first started doing the homes, which I think was interesting because while everybody else was, out partying and doing what they was doing, she was 21 and he was like 24, and they were out doing these things and getting their business off the ground, making so they said millions of dollars. Other people were just out partying and doing whatever and not doing nothing with their lives. And she just feels like, we need to get back to the place that we were in before. And so, he was like, all that's cool or whatever. But, the way I set this up was you were going to work in the office and handle all the day-to-day inside of the office. And I was going to do field work, be out in the fields and talk with the contractors and do all this other stuff. So, she just feels like that's not the way it's supposed to be. We used to work basically together and everything was more along the lines of equality. So what she did was something that I hate when people do this. She gonna tell him once he was gonna leave and go on back and get back out in the field. She was like, you're dismissed. I was like, what? He wasn't here for it. He was mad and he drove off. And I love the truck. I love Fords. Drove off in the truck mad, cussing and fussing, y'all. So anyway, so the next scene comes on and Maurice and Kimberly have invited everyone over. And she's made dinner, and the dinner is to celebrate them buying the land and, working together, dealing with the comeback group again. Okay, cool. So the first person to show up is Melody. She's by herself. And so everybody's like, she's like, her and her husband-to-be is like, well, where is Martel? And so she was like, girl, I don't know. I don't know where he at. He'll be here when he get here. Like, she just had this, attitude type of negative connotation in the way she said it. And it was just like, oh, okay. So he actually came not too long after her and, it was crazy. So they were like, basically you could tell she was bothered. So I was just like, why are you acting so, ugh, y'all? So anyway, he came late because he had been running around and he actually had to attend a funeral of a, relative of his like mother's brother or something like that passed away, uncle, whatever. Somebody passed away and he was at the funeral. And so they were like, oh, you ain't go to the funeral? She was like, nah, I had other things to do. I was like, oh, Lord. And it's not funny, but it's funny. They showed Maurice in the confessional with his wife to be and was like, oh, so we just skipping funerals. I was like, no. I was like, oh my gosh, no. Yeah, y'all. So I was just like, Lord, this is too much. So it got to the point everybody else showed up or whatever, and everybody kept greeting each other. And then it got to the point where they kind of, since everybody was there, they were like, oh, so, what's going on with y'all, talking to Melody and Martel. And so it just got uncomfortable. You could tell he was uncomfortable and just didn't want to talk about nothing no more. He was just like, so what we got to eat? What we eating today? And so everybody was just looking like, wait a minute. Like, I was like, Lord, wait a minute, I gotta try to remember what was said because he changed the subject so quick to be like, yeah, so what we eating though? I'm like, Lord, sir. Oh yeah, when he was talking about how she didn't go to the funeral or whatever, he ended up changing the subject. He was like, yeah, she didn't go to the funeral, but that's all right though. So yeah, so what we eating? Like he just flipped on a light switch. Like it was just nothing, and everybody was just like, "Wait a minute!" Like you could tell the look on. Nobody said anything, but you could tell the look on their face. So there was like an awkward silence, right? Everybody had paused, like, wait a minute." So then Maurice sat up there and he made a whack joke and was like, "Well, we gonna leave y'all women in the kitchen like Marsal like it." And I was like, he made some kind of random snide comment, and then his brother's wife to be was like, "Yeah, and you can get out the kitchen on that note." So anyway, the women were left alone, and they were trying to get information out of Melody, and she still tried to make it seem like she was good, ain't nothing going on. Life is life, whatever. And they gave her a hug, and they kind of tried to reassure her that we're supposed to be friends and close. So if you need a shoulder to cry on or somebody to talk to, just know we're here, whatever. So then the men went outside and were sitting on the porch. And so of all people, Marsal is going to sit up there and try to ask Martell, is everything all right with you and your marriage? And so he going to laugh and say, yeah, everything is wonderful. Everything is perfect. What's going on with you? And he was like, everything's all right. Everything perfect in mine too. And he was like, yeah, but it's not. So then he immediately goes into talking about how basically his wife has the audacity to try to want to go outside of the home and do things outside of dealing with the children. And it was just looking like, oh, okay. And then they kept panning back and forth between the conversation that was happening outside and what was happening on the inside with the ladies. And so Letitia was upset and she mentioned it as well. She was like, guess what he had the nerve to say to me? Then was talking about how he was saying that she couldn't do that, going back out of the house and trying to work and all that stuff. So anyway, eventually the men were told that they can come on in, it's time to eat, cool, whatever. Before all that happened, I gotta make sure I say this because like I said, I don't like Marsal. So at one point in the conversation, he was just saying, I think he was in the confessional when he said this, or the majority of this. He was basically saying that he believes in protecting and providing, and he don't understand people who want to be in 50-50 relationships. That's crazy to him and all this other stuff. So then, whatever. Anyway, they ended up telling him to come in, it's time to eat. So then they start eating. And so, like, immediately after they start eating, Melody asks Maurice and them questions about, what do they think is going to set them apart to help their relationship last. And so, he was like, he gave all these nice little loving answers. And, it was like he didn't have to think about it. Now it was really good. And then she went on to ask Marsal and Letitia about the traditional man, and basically about the traditional relationship as it pertains to people who still have that wayward thinking of men work, women don't work at all. They only stay at home and are barefoot and pregnant, taking care of the kids, cleaning the house, clean up after the kids, cooking, just doing all this stuff and never doing anything outside of the house, and just there to be someone to have babies with, have sex with, and you need to make my food. So she basically said, had she known that that was the type of the relationship she was going to get into, she doesn't know if she would have been with him. So everybody looking shook like, what? And so she was like, well, this was nothing that was ever discussed. So she was lost on that anyway until she was already deep into the situation. And so she was like, I really just don't know what I would have done. So I was like, dang. So then Melody goes on to ask what everybody's deal breaker would be. So since they were already talking to Letitia, Letitia said that if he were to cheat on her or to talk down to her and verbally abuse her and all this other stuff like that, that she would be gone, be done with him, all that stuff. So then basically everybody else like nodded their head like, yeah, that's what it would be. So they ended up asking her what would be her rule deal breaker. And so she goes on this like little mini rant. And I was like, ma'am, she basically was like, so let's say he goes out and cheat. Okay, cool. So if I know about it, she basically was like, if she knew about it, that's fine. But it becomes disrespectful and crazy if she starts getting phone calls and all this other stuff. And, it's one thing if I know about it, but if I don't, then that's when it's a problem. And then when people are calling her, then that's a problem. So everybody looking at her like, what? Then apparently there's rumors going around the city of Huntsville anyway, stating that he is cheating on her currently and got a whole side piece. Like actively still got a whole side piece. So they were in the confessional, right? And he was like, well, all I know is I've never cheated. So, and her, even though she didn't do like no or nothing like that, she just kept looking like, it was just the way I'm sorry, it was all in the eyes. And then like when they showed previews of what's going to happen throughout the season, it's going to come out. You can tell it's coming out that it happened, because at one point he was like, it's something that happened over a year ago. Why are you still saying something about it? And then like she's still talking about it. He about to go insert, like he's literally in a hospital gown in the hospital bed about to go under the knife or whatever is going on with him. And he was like, you gonna bring this up right now? And I'm about to go under. I was like, Lord, what happened? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Y'all, I was not expecting them to do this much, but I mean, Alabama is Alabama. That's my home state. So, I mean, it is what it is, but I think this is going to be a pretty good show. I'm going to try my best to continue to keep up with it and do the reviews. And y'all, I'm sorry I waited so late, but like I said, the time got away from me, and it got released early, and I could have been the first one who did the review like days before everybody else did it. So it like officially just came on for real the other day, but whatever. But anyway, y'all, I hope y'all having a wonderful Sunday and that everything is going well in your life. And let's pray for one another. Let's uplift one another. And, let's just get out here and be our best selves and, do what we do best. But anyway, have a wonderful weekend. I'll see y'all later. Bye.